Welcome to Life Mastery for Women, where I help you decode the struggles in your life in the areas of health, wealth, relationships, and spirituality with mind mastery, emotional management, and meditation. Welcome to today's podcast. Hey ladies, it's Jen Mack, Lady of the Mind. Welcome to today's episode where I hope I am finding you living a life of peace, relaxation, and calm. If you're not living a life of peace, relaxation, and calm, then it is my intention that in today's episode, I give you just one nugget of inspiration towards your transformation. So it is really interesting that now, years and years and years ago, nobody other than like the Eastern Hemisphere was talking about meditation. And then when it first started ramping its way and showing its head here in the Western states, we're thinking, oh, I am not doing that. That is stupid and ridiculous. Like, how in the world is that going to help me? And now it is like becoming popular and everybody's talking about it. And your doctor says, hey, you ever thought about maybe trying a meditation practice? And you're like, oh, great, you too. And then you are reading online because you're having a hard time with your kids or your husband or your work environment. And then somewhere in there, in all of the articles or all of the videos, somewhere you see the word meditation. And you're like, really? It's everywhere. Yes. Do you know why it's everywhere? Because it works. We have a very common phrase that we use in our sister circle, in our coaching programs, that we say, this shit works. And we're going to start selling t-shirts pretty soon. But we talk about meditation, but we talk about is a broader version of meditation. Of course, we teach all the fine details to make this a fun experience and something that is very motivating and builds a lot of confidence in you. Because most of the time, well, before I say that, let me come back here. But we talk about it in this broad way that says, go inward. Look inward. I remember it's a passage, like a conversation that I want to say is in the Bible, but I'm not 1,000% sure. But it is really a great passage. And I remember reading it years and years and years ago, and it really sticking with me. And it's perfect for today, and it's perfect. And I hope it sticks with you too. There's a conversation. I'm not sure who all the people are, but you'll get the gist of it. But I think it's a conversation between God and somebody else. Okay, I'm not sure who the somebody else is. And he has the power of man, the power of creation in his hands. And he says to God, let's bury it into the top of the mountain. And God says no, because one day man will search the top of the mountain. And he says, okay, well, let's bury it to the depths of the sea. And he says no, because one day man will explore the depths of the sea. And he goes, well, then God, I don't know where to hide this power of man. So later men can find it. And he says, hide it within the person. Hide it within man. And of course, in the Bible, when they say man, they mean everybody. But hide it within, because by the time the person finds it, they'll be worthy of having it. It is an amazing, amazing, powerful story, because what it teaches us is this: as we're seeking expansion and change, eventually we are going to bang it around enough out in the physical world that we're going to say, okay, I've had enough. Like, I really need some help here. I really need some change. I really need to improve this area of my life. I'm getting sick and tired of doing this or being here or struggling with this thing. And we start to see this word. We start to see the word meditation. We start to see the word energy. We start to see the word Reiki is becoming popular now. We're starting to see the word chakra. And then we're going, okay, what the heck is all of this? Like, what is really happening? That's kind of a message. But of course, we have to see it 27 times before we actually look into it and start to explore. And my thought is, as we are out in the world banging it around and we see the word meditation, the next thought is, I don't know how to do that. So I appreciate you telling me that that's kind of the clue to everything, but I don't understand. But once you get to the cusp, once you start really looking and searching for solutions for your life, you get to the cusp, then you are open to receiving new stories, new ways of doing things, looking for new solutions, because how many times do we go out there and we just keep doing the same thing over and over again? I know I do. My mind just keeps working that way, and it's very frustrating, as I'm sure it's frustrating to you, that my mind just keeps going, no, let's just try it again. You're like, okay. And lo and behold, it doesn't work, right? So instead of continuously banging our head against the wall, let's do something different. Let's meditate. Let's look at meditation as a way of exploring the depths of within to find those solutions that are not located without. Let's explore the depths of within to find the solution instead of going out here where the solution is not. The solution is not with your parents. The solution is not out there with social media. It's not in the medication bottle. It is not in the alcohol bottle. It's not in TV, Netflix, movies, video games. It's not out there. It's inward. But most people don't take the time, don't know how, can't sit still, fall asleep every time they try to go inward. Well, that's your mind starting to resist what it knows is where the solution is. So it's resisting. It wants you to just keep staying in the physical world. That's where your mind wants you to be, in the physical world. And as you are, bumping it around out in the physical world, your mind is like, yep, see, we're just going to keep doing this. Because your mind wants to keep you safe, wants to keep you comfortable. And even though you're not comfortable, but wants to keep you in that space where you are not expanding, not growing, not changing. So how do we begin this awareness? How do we begin this introspection is what I call it, is this going inward? Where do we start with that? Well, start with very small incremental bits of time. So 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something. But I would start with a moving one. If you have a lot of energy like I do, and you're always like on the go and on the move and whatever, is try some where you are not putting anything in your mental capacity. So you don't have your phone, you're not reading anything, you're not playing games, you're not talking with anybody. It is literally just a walk on a trail, along the beach, in the woods, someplace where you are just being. You're just quiet. Do you remember my Being, Doing, Having podcast? It's about 4 or 5 podcasts ago. And it's talking about if you want to have something different, you want to have this great relationship and you keep just bouncing from one relationship to the other. You want to have a great job and you keep quitting and going and expanding and going on to another job and you're just still not getting it. Go to the beginning of that equation and go, who do I have to become? And in that being, that's where you get answers. And if you've listened to me at least the last couple of weeks or several weeks, I'm in this business course and I'm listening to this coach, this teacher who owns this course, and is teaching me some aspects about business that I didn't have, the pieces that were missing as I was trying to grow my business. And one of the things that she said, now she wasn't really teaching this, but she didn't really know what she was saying, which is really funny because I know exactly what she means. But we're on this call and there's like 65 of us on this call. And she's saying, if you're trying to create content for your people, go out and go for a walk but go and be quiet. Basically, don't use your phone, don't talk with don't go with anybody, don't even take your dogs, but go out and, unless your dogs are non-interruptive, mine can be, but go where you can just be. And she goes, and that's where I get most of my ideas. And I'm like, that's because you're being quiet enough that introspection and higher self and spirit can work through you. And then she's like, I don't really know why that works, but it just does. And she's going on, and she goes, it's just really powerful, and I do it all the time, and I get all these ideas. What she's doing is what I like to call either a walking meditation or a moving meditation. When I get on the treadmill, when I work out, when I go outside and walk the dogs, when I go outside and go for a walk, sometimes driving does it. So I don't always want to call it a walking meditation, but you can call it a moving meditation. So anyway, so what that does is that really, really helps to open up the channels because your mind is busy doing something else. And so the introspection, the guidance, the support, the messages, the ideas will all start flooding towards you. So when I was going through some pretty tough relationships issues several years ago, I remember I was always going to get, we'd have a fight or we would have a big discussion and things were, our relationship would always be kind of, tumultuous in some way. And I would get in my car and leave. And I would go for a drive, a long drive. Now, the unfortunate part is I would go and drive somewhere, but I'd have the radio on, and then I would get to the location and then I would sit, but then I would get distracted. So the times that I would drive for long periods of time and not have my radio on, that's when I was getting ideas. That's when things were coming to me. That's when things were happening, right? So what I encourage, if you like to drive like I do, you can drive, but don't have the radio on. Don't have anybody in the car with you, and just allow the quiet to just wash over you. Now, that's one really good way to start. And just journal or make notes somehow about the experience. So after you're done, so maybe make a note at the top of the journal that says, okay, I'm going to go drive for a blank amount of time, or I'm going to go for a walk, or here's where I went on the trail in the woods, or I went on the beach, or I went whatever. And then journal how it went for you. Like, oh my gosh, I was flooded with ideas, or oh my gosh, this was so stupid. Whatever your ideas are. So, or whatever happened. So journal a few sentences about the experience. What that does is it kind of brings it full circle. It brings it back to the physical, because when we go out for a walk, you may very well experience something, but when you don't bring it back and put it on paper, you generally tend to forget what the experience was. So when you come back around to try to meditate, you're like, it just doesn't work for me. I'm just not able to do it. This business coach I was working with says, sitting still and meditating just doesn't work for me. And then she's like, and I'm just not good at meditating. But then in the second breath says, I go for these walks and I get all these ideas, and that's where I get all my content. And I'm like, okay, but you're meditating. You're just not doing it in the traditional sense that they would do, in the Eastern Hemisphere. So anyway, so I just found it to be pretty interesting that she was like, sorry, I totally had to kill a spider just now. He was crawling around on the floor. I'm like, oh, well, that's good. How about I just take a break from the middle of my podcast and kill arachnophobia here in my basement? Gross. Sorry about that. Little commercial break about some bug repellent in my basement. Anyway, but I just found that to be interesting. So there's lots of different ways to meditate. That is one of my favorite. So when I'm needing, especially moving my body is so great, but it keeps my mind busy. So I can then channel in new ideas and thoughts. So keep that one in mind. And do any kind of move. You could kayak, you could bike, you could go for a hike, you could go for a swim. Swimming is really good. You can go for a drive. So any way a moving meditation will help. Another thing that I like to use are mala beads. Now, if you've ever visited, we have a meditation store called themeditationroomtc.com. And that's a meditation store where we have basically all these items that help you to begin a meditation practice. We also have some chakra stuff in there too. So if you're more familiar with the chakras and you want to meditate in the chakra area, we have stuff for that too. So now this is not necessarily, it is a plug for the meditation room for our store, but also more importantly, this item, not only are they so beautiful, like I absolutely love my mala beads, and I have probably 6 or so sets, and they're necklaces, big beaded necklaces with 108 beads or gemstones, or not just beads, but gemstones in all these different materials. So you can get them in rose quartz, amethyst, hematite, sandalwood, lava stone, and every gemstone in between, and a mix of all of them. I have a chakra one that I absolutely love. Anyway, so what I do and what I have taught, for those of you that want or like products, like I love to buy stuff. So I have bought lots of mala beads, and then when I learned how to meditate with mala beads, I'm like, oh my God, like this shit works. Holy crap, like my life is absolutely shifting. So I have an idea as I'm starting to talk about like meditation and stuff with our clients. Let's create a store and let's find the best of the mala beads, sell mala beads, and teach them how to use them. So I'm not going to go into teaching you necessarily how to use mala beads if you're part of our Chakras for Beginners group. And if not, go find us on Facebook, Chakras for Beginners. There's a couple of different sites, But if you search around in there, you'll see my name. You'll see Jen Mack in there. You might see Amy's name. But anyway, it is a private but public, private but visible group. So anyway, and you do have to ask to join. Just say you came in through the podcast if you're not a part of our group already. Anyway, in the Chakras for Beginners group, in the guides section, which is one of the tabs under the cover photo, you will see, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's mala bead reference. And there's a video where I show you how to use mala beads, as well as a PDF that you can download that shows you how to use them. But overall, what you do is, as you have, so picture these necklaces, okay, this 108 beaded necklace. And for each bead, you say an affirmation. Now, what I do is, as I have the mala beads in my hands, I think about what my intention is. And let's say I want to heal a body part, okay? So I say my intention for this round of mala beads is to heal my back, let's say. Then what I say is, I'm going to use the word heal as my affirmation that equals, I want to heal my back. That equals my intention. Then you start at the beginning, which is right by the guru bead. Again, all of this is explained in the video. And you take every bead, pulling it towards you, saying your affirmation, which in my example is heal. Now, as I go around, what I'm also doing is I have something physical in my hand that keeps my mind busy. I'm also redirecting my mind to a visual of what would it be like if I were healed. Why do I want my back to be healed? Because I would feel better. Well, why do you want to feel better? Because I like to play. I'm almost 50 years old and I still love to play soccer. I love to run on the beach. I love to hike and bike and wrestle around and play catch with football. I love to kick the hacky sack around. I love to just be and have fun. I love to run on the beach, chase the dogs, chase the kids, swim, splash around, kayak. I don't know what I said. I mean, the list goes on and on. I can't do those things if my body isn't in optimum shape. So while I am doing these mala beads, I'm doing each round, I'm saying an affirmation, I'm hearing the affirmation. So there's two senses, seeing or talking, hearing, and feeling. So I'm running each bead over my finger, as well as imagining my life without back pain and feeling the emotion of joy and happiness and excitement. Okay? So that really keeps my body focused. So what's actually happening? I am directly communicating with source energy my intention. So what starts to happen? Physically, my body starts shifting and changing. Ideas, support, people come around, things happen. I all of a sudden wake up the next day, I feel better. I come across some PT exercises that will help me to be stronger. I feel motivated. I feel hopeful. All of these things start to shift and change my life. So another really powerful way to meditate. And for me anyway, it becomes really fun because I get to buy different mala beads for different things. Like I have grounding mala beads that I use just to be present, to build my business, to work on my finances, to belong to the planet. Because sometimes my energy gets really high, I feel really anxious, and I lose that sense of belonging on the planet, where I'm just like, I say often when I get really wound up in this space is I'm like, I just don't belong here. So I don't know if that's you, but if it is, sandalwood mala beads are your go-to because they're very grounding. But that's just an idea. It works really well for me. Okay, so there's two. So the moving meditation and the mala beads. Another one is the traditional meditation, but I would recommend starting with a guided meditation where you are listening to somebody doing a guided walkthrough, that you are just allowing the words of the guided meditation to just wash over you. I've done a few guided meditations. You can search for them in my podcast. Another really popular platform that I use, and I use it often, is Insight Timer. It's an app both for Android and iPhones, and it's a white background with a Tibetan bowl. That's their app identifier, their little thumbnail. And it's mostly free. There's things that you can pay for in there. There's courses that a lot of teachers will do, so courses, but there's also tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of different guided meditations in there that are free to use. Now there's some with a paid version you can fast forward through, you can rewind, you can do stuff like that. You can save things. Of course, the I think there's even an extended version of some of the meditations. But either way, very powerful, great meditations. I use it all the time, sometimes twice a day for several days. You can friend each other. So you can send each other meditations. Like I've done that before. I have friends with some of my clients on there, and I'll say, hey, you know what, Joanne, here's this great guided meditation for anxiety. I just listened to it. It's really great. I think it might help you. So that's 3 really powerful ways. Now, let's just talk about you in the sense of when I first heard about meditation. I'm going to go back onto the very, very beginning because I thought meditation was stupid. And I also laughed through my first meditation class, like literally laughed through the entire class. I'm sure that teacher absolutely hated me, but because how disruptive I was. But when I think of meditation and want to solve a problem in my life, I don't relate the two together because I want to go out into the world and be active in solving my problem. I want to go out and talk to the person that hurt my feelings to make them see my perspective so they'll apologize and they'll change their ways. Well, I'm here to be the bearer of terrible news, is that is never going to work for very long. Everybody is on their own journey, and the world is basically our catalyst for growth, whether it's traffic, our boss, our kids, our pets, our husbands or wives. And it's never, we can try, and we try to manipulate the world around us. It just doesn't work for very long. We can manipulate our children to being good, being quiet, help them with chores. Don't do this instead. Make mama happy, right? But it just doesn't work for very long. And that's the frustrating part. Now, wait a second. Didn't I just tell you this yesterday, kid? Didn't I say not to do this? Because you do it this way and it makes me happy. You do it that way and it makes me upset. Everything in our life are catalysts, meaning they poke at us. They poke at our nerves, they poke at our emotions, and we go up and down through our day with all these different triggers happening. It is our job to manage that. And a way to manage it is not by tackling the physical world, but by going inward and removing the triggers. Let me say that again. It is our job to manage our emotions, the things that frustrate us, the things that anger us, the things that upset us. It is not the physical world's job to help us manage our life. It is our job. But what we do instead of going out into the physical world to manipulate those things out there, because it's exhausting trying to manipulate, go inward instead and remove the trigger. Now, when I'm in traffic, it doesn't bother me because the trigger is gone. Now I can just enjoy the car ride. Now I can just settle into the radio station or the conversation with the people that are in the car, or I can settle into a little bit of peace and quiet, even if I'm late, even if you're late. It's going to be okay. If you remove the trigger, then you're not in this high stress, high chaotic space. And most people don't go there. Most people don't know that. Another is, as meditation, when you start to go inward, in this meditative practice, you start to kind of have the forethought that balances you out later. So, for example, if I have a trigger, we'll talk about traffic. If I have a trigger about traffic and I say, oh my God, it's going to make me late. I don't want to be late. I'm never late, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. I'm getting pissed off. I'm honking horns. I'm flipping people off. I'm driving erratically. I'm going crazy, right, in the car. Well, what does that do to me in my body? It stresses me out. Is there anything I can do to control it? Absolutely not. I could leave earlier or leave later. I could drive a different way, but all the time stuff is going to happen as far as traffic goes. It always does. I can't control it. Okay. I can try to change the way I do things, but let's say I can't. Okay. I can't control it. Right. So now what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go inward and remove the trigger about traffic. I'm going to release the trigger. I'm willing to release the trigger that traffic upsets me, okay? Now that I've released the trigger, I can do that, and that helps, and that allows me to just be in a different space when I am in traffic. Now come back to meditation. If I have a regular meditative practice, what it does is as it starts to calm the nervous system, it doesn't change the fact that I'm going to get stuck in traffic again one day, but it changes my reaction to it because it brings me this general overall peace and calm. So now I'm in traffic and I'm more flexible. It's not a big deal, even if I'm late. Even if you're late, it's okay. So that's what meditation does, is it puts out the calm out on the sidewalk of life. It allows me to walk through this peace and tranquility most of the time, even if chaos and stuff is going on around me. I still can find this peace and calm within. And someone's going, okay, wait, Jen, tell me this. So when the world is collapsing and stuff is going on around us, you're telling me that I'm still going to be happy. I'm not saying that you're going to be happy, but I'm saying that you're going to have a sense of calm and peace. Because in your sense of calm and peace, you are more powerful than the person over here who's freaking out. Because the person over here who's freaking out is bringing what? More freaking out stuff. As the energy goes out and circulates through the world, and the world is doing whatever the world does, how would you rather feel? A sense of freaking out or a sense of peace and calm? I would rather have a sense of peace and calm because I do tend to, if I'm not on my regular practice, that I tend to spiral around like a lunatic and it doesn't feel good. It makes my relationships yucky and sticky and not harmonious. And I want my relationships to be cohesive, no matter who the relationships are with, whether it's Amy or the boys or my mom, or my dad, my brother, my coworkers, anybody. I want my relationships to feel good. And in order for that to happen, I need to feel good on the inside. Now, a meditation practice doesn't get rid of the problems in your life. It just allows you to deal with them from a better perspective, from a higher place, from a higher perspective. So I know I gave you a lot to think about today, and I hope you did listen to this whole episode today. And I encourage you to pick a different meditation practice and just start to practice it. Maybe it is a walk, but have it be with purpose. Like maybe get some ideas, maybe just connect to yourself at a deeper level. But I encourage you to do something and to create something on a regular basis. As the weather is changing and you can't go for a walk outside, well then try maybe mala beads. You can visit our store, you can get mala beads in all different places. Of course, I would love for you to visit our store and get mala beads from us. But you can go to our Chakras for Beginners page. You can look at the guide section and see what mala beads look like. You can see how to use them, or try a guided meditation like from Insight Timer and see how that works. But I encourage you just to try it. Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, find what works for you to really start bringing in some higher perspective, which in turn brings in peace, relaxation, and calm into your life. If you liked this episode and you look forward to future episodes and are really looking for a community to help support you with implementing the tools that we're talking about in this podcast, please consider joining our online sister community called Lady Rising on Facebook, where we focus on that spiritual support and connection, just like in today's episode. I hope you'll join us. Go to Facebook, type in Lady Rising, and tell me you came in through the podcast.